What is aviation mastery? Mastery is a quest, not a score on a test. It's a self-perpetuating infinite game. It takes our concept of a good pilot is always learning and removes the limits you previously self-imposed. But the choice, once again, is always yours. You can choose to stay inside your comfort zone, your defined limits, or you can push beyond to the safer, smarter pilot you're always meant to be. These are the principles of aviation mastery.
Flaps are set. Turning final. I see 1-8 outside. I see 1-8 on my compass here. 2-3, Mike Zulu, College Tower, make right, close traffic, runway 18, clear for takeoff.
What is happening, MzeroA Nation? Jason Schappert here, MzeroA.com. Welcome into our new series, Principles of Mastery. And today we're diving into really mastering our landings and principles of mastery in our landings as well. And I am just so excited. I hope you loved the Fundamentals series. If you need help with your landings, by the way, go watch Fundamentals Episode 1. We can make sure the team links to that down below this video as well. And I'm going to take you through 3 landings here in the pattern. We're 1-8 at the Ocala Airport. And
November
some of these
turn left at Alpha
maybe things that are familiar to you. Perfect lane starts the perfect pattern. Airspeed is king. And we don't flare on landing. I'll explain more on that in a bit. Let's get in the air though.
With you, 026.
Tower Skyhawk 23, Mike Zulu, Alpha 1, 1-8, ready for departure.
November 23, Mike Zulu, Ocala Tower, make right, close traffic, runway 18, cleared for takeoff.
Right close traffic, 18, clear for takeoff. Thank you, 23, Mike Zulu. Verify finals clear, base is clear. Get my door. Seatbelts, everything set, set, set. Every bit of runway. And then we'll take you through really mastering landings. You learned the fundamentals last month. Now we're going to start to really apply them out in the real world. I see 1-8 outside. I see 1-8 on my compass here. Here we go. Airspeed's alive. Confirmed. Engine gauges. Green, green, green. Life's looking good. Let's go.
All ground, good afternoon. November 121 Victor Kilo.
We are up and flying.
November 121 Victor
Got some
Kilo.
birds right down here.
Good afternoon. Go ahead with your request.
And they're low. Out of the way.
Sorry, 121 Victor Kilo would like to request a taxi for departure to the northeast, please.
We're looking great.
121 Victor
As we
Kilo,
climb out on our departure leg here.
Alpha 6, taxi via
Just
Alpha
listen to
7
him
Alpha.
taxiing out. We're going to start with our first principle, which is a perfect landing starts with a perfect traffic pattern. How can you expect to have a nice, normal landing if you're all over the place? If you're high this time, low this time, whatever that may be, how can you expect that all to be the same? Well, we're going to show that here today. I'm going to purposely end up way too high, just kind of a sloppy pattern all over the place. All right. 700 feet AGL MSL, we're turning our crosswind here. He wanted right to closed traffic. And I'm going to purposely just fly a sloppy pattern. Think about it this way. When a basketball player steps up to the free throw line, if any of you have played basketball before, maybe golf's your sport, whatever it is, golf, addressing a putt, whatever it may be, you approach the ball or approach the free throw line exactly the same way every time. I used to play basketball quite a bit, and you'd approach the free throw line, you had your routine. You'd dribble it twice, you'd spin it in your hands once, you'd bend your knees, you'd shoot, right? The goal is to make everything exactly the same and get into that pattern. Well, the same is true of our landings. How can you expect a perfect landing when your pattern is so different all the time? When one time you're so close, when the next time you're so far away, when this time I'm 200 feet too high. And I'm going to end up being a little bit on the wide side of things. So high and wide could actually end up working out. Can you see that smoke out there? So look at that. That smoke's not looking like 1-8 kind of smoke, is it? But we will see what we can do here. I'm going to give him a call. And 23 Mike Zulu's on the midfield right now on 1-8. Touch and go, please.
November 23 Mike Zulu, runway 18, cleared for touch and go.
1-8 cleared, touch and go. Thank you, 23 Mike Zulu. I should be about 1,100 feet. I'm 1,500 feet right now. And I see that and I go, wow, I really need to get down. So I bring some power back and I bring my carburetor heat on back. And I'm already out of my pattern because typically my pattern is I want to be beam my touchdown point, carb, power back, 10 degrees of flaps. Now, I need to get down, so I'm kind of lowering the nose, but can you look at my airspeed real quick? Look at my airspeed creeping up 95, 96. I'd like to be kind of 90-ish right now. Instead, I'm trying to get down, and I still have 300 feet to go. I should be beginning my descent. You know what? I'm going to go, I'm within my arc, I'm going to add 10 degrees of flaps, and I am behind the airplane in the traffic pattern, as odd as that seems. I still realize I'm high. The flaps aren't really helping me, right? I bring a little bit more power back. You have to begin to standardize your traffic patterns. Now, you say that's easy to do, Jason, at my home airport. You know, I fly over this in between the school and the palm tree farm, or whatever it is. You need to adopt, no matter where the pattern is for you, no matter where you're actually flying, that you fly the same distance. In a high-wing airplane like this, I can put the runway out on my strut. In a low wing, you can do the same thing on the leading edge as well with this. I am now at my pattern altitude, and I'm on base. I am bringing my power back now to just about idle in any attempt just to try to get this airplane on down here. He already cleared me for touch and go. You know what? I'm adding my next notch of flaps. That's probably going to help me, right? And this is how we think as a student pilot. I'll get my flaps in here. However, I'm about to now turn into the wind. With all these flaps and all these lift and drag devices, we'll call them, I turn into the wind, and what's going to happen? I may not cover a lot of distance across the ground, but holy moly am I high. Can you see the PAPI lights? I see 4 white lights. I am 800 feet. I'm normally about 500 feet right here. I've consistently been about 300 feet high this entire pattern. I never made up for the altitude deficit because it kind of perpetuates itself through the pattern. You have to get down at such an exponential amount. So now I've got the power back to idle. I'm 700 feet per minute. Is this a stabilized approach? There's my 500-foot call out. That normally happens back there, as you'll see in my next landing. Is this a stabilized approach? I mean, it's stable, but I am racing to get down. I have been behind the airplane this entire time, and this is a situation where students often find themselves behind the airplane in the traffic pattern. Reality, if you find yourself in this situation, I need you as a student pilot to go around. You know, thank goodness we have 7,000 feet of runway here. I've been high this entire time. The PAPI lights are showing, by the way. I'm back to idle. I got full flaps in. I'm at the mercy of gravity, short of picking up a ton of airspeed coming on down here. Give me 1 second. Those white birds are just hanging out right here. Let me just watch them. Anyways, I'm landing. I'm going to touch down about 1,000 feet longer than I want to, and a little more firm than I want to. Let me just quietly sneak past these birds. Please don't hit my airplane. Thank you, birds. Carburetor heat. Flaps are coming up. And full power. And we're on to it again. And Tower 2 there, Mike Zulu, be advised, there's those white birds just hanging out like right at the 1,000-foot markers. They were there on takeoff, and they were there again on this landing.
November 23 Mike Zulu, roger. We'll see if we can get ops out there for.
You're awesome, thanks. Let them know the birds out there. They got a cool bird cannon. Not that they hurt the birds, they just scare the birds away with a cool, like shoot fireworks and stuff. Anyways, you got to learn about birds, and you got to see how a perfect pattern and a perfect landing go hand in hand. If I have a sloppy, all over the place pattern, how can I expect to have a great landing? I can't.
How far west are you now?
So this time, I'm going to fly a perfect pattern, and I'm going to add the second key to mastery of our landings, which is airspeed.
Mike Zulu, just to extend your upwind, I'll call you crosswind here in just a minute.
We'll extend departure leg to 3 Mike Zulu. Technically, it's the departure leg. I mean, not to get the pilot controller glossary too much.
You can proceed direct now for the right base.
We're going to extend this out, and this actually brings up an interesting point. Jason, how are you going to fly your perfect pattern now when he just told you to extend? I'll show you. I just need to set myself up in the same spot each time. Here comes my 1,100 feet.
23 Mike Zulu, you can start your crosswind now.
Turn crosswind now, thank you, 23 Mike Zulu. I'm at pattern altitude on my departure leg / upwind leg. I'm going to turn my crosswind. And again, not a whole lot's going to change from this standpoint, right? I'm just entering into the pattern. So then you're asking, well, what about if I enter on a base or final? You want to put yourself in a position, like I said, I'm normally back here when I'm at the 500-foot mark, and here my 500-foot call out. Well, you just want to be in that same position no matter how you enter the actual traffic pattern. So a perfect landing starts with a perfect traffic pattern. Next, I need you to understand that airspeed
Cessna 1
is
Victor
king.
Kilo, frequency change approved.
Airspeed is king. My pattern, I'm going to turn it right about here. My downwind.
Cessna 23 Mike Zulu, you're going to be following Cessna traffic on about, he's about to turn the right base now, and he'll be a full stop.
Traffic to follow in sight, 23 Mike Zulu. All right, he didn't clear me for touch and go, he just told me to follow that traffic, so you got to be mindful of that as well.
November 23 Mike Zulu, number 2, runway 18, cleared for touch and go.
Number 218, cleared touch and go. Thank you, 23 Mike Zulu. All right, I've got him in sight, I'm gonna watch him. So the second aspect of this is airspeed is king. How can we manage our airspeed throughout our pattern? In 23 Mike Zulu, I like to be about 90-ish on downwind, 80 on base, 70 on final, and slowing to 65, 60 as I get over airport property. So let's look at our speed. I'm right at 90. I'm liking this a lot here. Holding this, I've got my pattern altitude. I got a little bit of a climb going on. It's kind of bumpy today though. I don't know how much of that is real versus just riding updrafts and downdrafts here as well. So we're working to manage that. Now what I was talking about earlier, I don't know which camera can catch it here, but I always fly my patterns about halfway, put the runway about halfway up my strut. A low-wing airplane, you can find that same kind of point for you as well. So no matter where I'm at, I don't need a geographic point below me. I just know, hey, put the wing out there. Now, whether it's left traffic, right traffic, it doesn't matter. From your seat, where should that be for you? I'll beam my touchdown point to get into my procedures. You ready? Carburetor heat, power back, 10 degrees of flaps, and that other traffic is already beamed me as well on final as well. You could extend a little bit for him or her as well, but they're perfectly in sequence there. And most importantly, this is where people let the pattern get away from them. Can you make sure you start at a descent? Because what's the tendency when I add flaps in? The nose wants to come up. You have to make sure you've truly and actually started that descent. So get that airplane coming on down, and that might take more power than you actually think. And I want you getting ready to slow towards 80 knots. I'm almost there now. I'm at 83, 84 right now. And at that 45-degree point, there it is. He's down on the ground. I'm going to go ahead and turn my right base. Keeping my nose still coming down throughout my base. All's looking good. Look at my speed. I'm liking that a lot. The bird going by. Still have a nice descent going on.
Cessna Papa Charlie, turn left at Alpha 6.
And that's with 10 degrees of flaps.
Parking.
Watch how much easier life gets when I go to my next notch of flaps. Wings level. Next notch of flaps. And just hold it here. Look, that speed management gets way easier now. Looking good. I'm going to bring a little bit more power back as I turn final. And turning final here. Much more appropriate glide path here. On final, my next notch of flaps. And then where do I want to be? I want to be slowing to about 70. Whoops, a little gust there, which we are working towards. There's 70.
500.
We've got that. There's my 500-foot call out. I am a little bit higher than I would like to be, so I'm going to bring just a little bit more power back. I think I caught a little bit of an updraft there as I made that turn. Now that sight picture's come back in. You know what I used to do back in the olden days? Joel, one of my early aviation mentors, if you're watching, just pause it here. I used to take kind of like a charcoal pen, and I would draw a circle on the windshield. I'd say, put the numbers 1-8 in that circle. If that's not in that circle, if the 1-8's creeping up here, you're too low. If 1-8's creeping down here, you're too high. And we would work that. So I want you to kind of pick something out and draw your fictitious circle out there to know, am I too high? Am I too low? Am I right on glide path here? Managing everything as we come in. As we approach to airport property, we're going to slow that airplane up just a little bit more, cross into the 65 range. Everything is looking good. Little crosswind from the right. Hold it off, eyes down that runway, and nicely down on the ground. Carburetor heat's coming off. These are the flaps coming up. I don't see those birds, and I see ops out there. Look at that, they're efficient. This crosswind's got me good here. There we go. Oh, there's ops chasing the birds. I see them. Let's get flying first here. birds go right across the runway in front of me. Too funny. There's ops chase the birds. Thank you for that. So, a perfect landing starts the perfect traffic pattern. We next add the equation in there that airspeed is king. Now, I offered 90, 80, 70, slow into 65, 60 on short final / airport property. That's what works for my aircraft. Your aircraft may be in miles per hour, it may be in knots, it may be a Cirrus, it may be a Cessna 150. You can't use my rule as a hard and fast rule for your airplane. But you can fly with your instructor and you can figure those numbers out. You can fly the pattern a little bit and figure those numbers out, but they should drop roughly about 10 knots, 10 mile per hour even, increments. Figure out what works best for your aircraft to help you manage that airplane all the way down. Let's do one more here, and this one is perhaps the most difficult to understand. I would like you to ditch the word flare from your vocabulary. You see, what do you think about when you think of the word flare? You think of all the bad airplane movies you've seen. You think of, if you're young enough to remember seeing the space shuttle come into land. You think of all these things with a yoke back to the chest. And what actually caused me to change my mindset on this was very early on when, as a flight instructor, I had a student coming in, was flying great. I told them to flare. Kid you not, we were at about 25 feet. They pulled the yoke back to their chest. We shot up to the moon, and we just executed a really good go-around procedure before we slammed that airplane in. It was actually this very airplane, probably 15 years ago now. And I thought, I sat with him on the ground afterwards and said, what happened there? Why'd you do that? Well, you told me to flare, Jason. Yeah, I told you to flare. And he goes, when I think of a flare, I think of a big old 777 coming into land. I think of
November 23 Mike Zulu, runway 18, cleared for touch and go.
18, and this one will be a full stop if that's okay for 23 Mike Zulu.
November 23 Mike Zulu, runway 18, cleared to land.
18, cleared to land. Thank you, 23 Mike Zulu. So we talked about this definition of a flare. I said, no, you're really kind of transitioning to slow flight down the runway. And thus the word transition was born. This landing, I don't want you to think about flaring. I'm not talking about three-pointing it. The mains do touch down, followed by the nose. But I want you to treat it more like you're trying to do slow flight down the runway. And as you pick up the nose, because the nose does come up, by the way, I'm going to be my touchdown point, procedures, right? Carb heat, power back, 10 degrees of flaps. As you pick up the nose a little bit, I want you to also pick up your eyes down the runway. It's easy to get glued on. Jason said airspeed is king. Yes, that's right. But I also need you to take your eyes down the runway, and I mean way down the runway. 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet, look towards the trees, whatever it takes. Get your eyes down the runway. Has anybody, let me know in the comments, have you ever had the ground sneak up on you? You hit the ground before you thought you should have? You were looking too close. You need to look further down the runway. All right, we're clear to land, and we're good to turn base right here. Airspeed's looking good. Keep that nose coming down through this turn, right? That positive airflow. We're low, we're slow. I don't like flaps in a turn. That can be a discussion for another day. We're about to land here. I want to focus on this. I'm not a big fan of flaps in a turn. Can they be done? Yes, but I mostly operate from the principle of I'm low, I'm slow. One wing's creating more lift, thus more drag than the other with flaps. So why would I want to do that? It can be done, absolutely. I don't like to teach low-time student pilots to do that. That's another video here. All right, on base. All is looking good. Life's looking good. Flaps are set. Turning final. We should get that 500-foot call out here in just a second, right where we normally would.
500.
There she is. Normally I get it right about there, so it was a little early. Maybe a little lower than I normally am. Next and last notch of flaps here coming in, working that crosswind in. Now again, a perfect landing starts the perfect pattern. Look at that big old updraft I just caught there. Perfect landing starts the perfect pattern. Airspeed is king. Next,
500.
Instead of flaring, I want you to transition. And as you transition the nose up to hit the mains before you hit the nose, I want you to transition your eyes down this runway as well. That is where I want your focus to be. Now, all this time, we haven't really set up points to hit and everything, and we talked about that in the fundamentals. But really, I want you to focus on some of these principles of mastery here. So as we come in, we enter into just about ground effect right about here. And I want you to transition to slow flight down the runway. Hold it here. Hold it here. Eyes down the runway. I'm looking towards those trees. That's a gust. That's not you. Hold it here. Keep that back pressure, and just gently set that nose down. A little aerodynamic braking, and we can stop. Would you like 23 Mike Zulu to back taxi or keep it going?
And November 23 Mike Zulu, just make it 180 on the runway, back taxi to taxiway Alpha 1.
All right, back taxi to Alpha 1, thanks to 23 Mike Zulu. Got so much construction going on, as you've heard in a few previous videos, me talking about there. All right, that's all good. Let me get my back taxi going here. And confirm these are flaps, cleaning it up as we back taxi here. So what did we cover so far? A perfect landing starts with a perfect traffic pattern. Next, airspeed is king. And lastly, if you can, ditch the word flare from your vocabulary and work in a transition. Hey, I hope you love, I know you're going to love this series. I hope you love the previous fundamentals series as well as we dive into the series on mastery. We're kicking this off really to celebrate Aviation Mastery, the book. You can pre-order at aviationmastery.com, and that should be shipping towards the end of this month. So very excited, maybe the beginning of May, but very, very excited about that. aviationmastery.com to go and pre-order your copy of the book. It is a tome. I don't know how else to explain it. It is a big old book, and it is going to change the way you fly. These videos have helped you. Wait till you get to see it wrapped up in 300 or 400 pages. I've done my best to keep it short, and that's about as short as I could actually make it. aviationmastery.com. Also, we're going to be doing a great Principles of Mastery webinar series at the end of this month. I believe it's April 27th, I want to say, at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Go to MzeroA Live.com to get signed up for that. Hopefully you were able to join our previous Zoom call last week. I hope you loved that. We're doing another one. Every month we're going to do this. So head over to MzeroA Live.com to get signed up for that, and aviationmastery.com to pre-order your copy of Aviation Mastery, the book, which should be shipping soon.
23 Mike Zulu, the aircraft on the ramp is going to be waiting for you. You remain this frequency parking.
This frequency with you, thanks to the Mike Zulu. So listen, have a blessed, amazing, outstanding rest of your day. If we have helped you with your landings, let us know in the comment section below this video. I can't wait to read those. Those are truly our oxygen that keep us going. So thank you for that. Have a blessed, amazing, outstanding rest of your day. And most importantly, remember that a good pilot is always learning. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you.